purposes as well.
Turn this on?
No, the guy at the back.
Hello? Oh,
Hi
okay,
there.
I see.
So,
All right.
so I'll say the question again for the camera.
Okay.
Yeah. So how did you come to start acting? What started that for you? What was the big draw to become an actor? And where did you make your first impact?
For me, acting was sort of secondary to sports. I was an athlete, and that was really my dream, was to become a professional baseball or football player like almost every other American kid. And I kind of, I guess, followed my brother's footsteps into high school theater, and actually discovered it was really the only talent I ever had except sports. I was terrible in school. I was completely ADD. I had no focus of any sort, and got bad grades. So it was suddenly something else that I actually could do, when I always wondered what I would do if I didn't make it in sports, because I had no intellectual talents. And so I started doing theater in high school, and I was, I won a bunch of awards, and I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty good if I can't make it. So I went to college and actually majored in theater, and there I think I really started to, it started to really take me over more than, sports did, I guess, I'd have to say. And my second year on the football team, I had a very bad knee accident, and pretty much ended my sports career. So once again in college, my grades were about as bad as they were in high school, so I just decided I was going to, make a move, and I basically hitchhiked to New York one day without a big plan, except for the fact that I was going to, move there and make it as an actor, and that's what I did. And I spent, the next 6 months in and out of little jobs and trying to sell newspapers, and living in YMCA's and sleeping where I had to when I couldn't afford it, and finally gradually got a decent job that I held on to, and got an apartment, started taking classes, and doing every little shitty play I could. So my way was really kind of a workman's way. I went up and with the money I had in my pocket, and made my own way. My parents didn't have a lot of money, and so I just did like theater. I worked my way up from, my first play was Measure for Measure. I did a Shakespeare play in a church basement, and but 3 years later I was in an off-Broadway play, and a director saw me and gave me a Broadway audition, crazily enough. And I don't know, I look back at it now, and I just think about how lucky I was, to be the right type, and because, there are a lot of people that are more talented than me that I've watched never get those breaks. So I feel very lucky that I did get, especially that break, because then someone saw me in that Broadway play, and from Paramount, and gave me a 3-picture deal, which they still did that back in those days. That was 1982. You don't hear about that anymore, But so that was my movement into the business.
And what were the first 3 movies that you made under that deal then?
The first one was That Was Then, This Is Now, which was, it wasn't really a Brat Pack movie. It was on the heels of The Outsiders, which was the first S.E. Hinton. Yes, yeah. S.E. Hinton novels were all bought by actually Coppola. He made The Outsiders first, and Emilio Estevez was in The Outsiders as 2-bit, and he convinced Francis. Well, I guess he talked with Francis, and he had known Francis because when through his father Martin Sheen for forever, and I guess Francis decided that he was not going to make That Was Then, This Is Now. He was going to make Rumblefish, and Emilio got the rights from him and wrote the script with somebody. And strangely enough, once again, Paramount had already signed me to a 3-picture deal about literally 2 weeks before this, and my Broadway run, my contract was through to this particular Saturday night. They came into town looking for somebody to play this role, and I hadn't done anything of significance on film except soap opera, and somebody came to see me in the play, screen tested me, and I got the role, which started on Monday. So I finished my Broadway run that Saturday night, and I was off Sunday to do my first big movie, and that was 1983, I think, or 4. And then the next one was Some Kind of Wonderful, on the heels of that, and then Fire with Virginia Madsen.
Yeah.
So that was like 83, 84, 85 area.
Yeah, so Some Kind of Wonderful, was that written by John Hughes?
Yeah, John wrote that, and Howard Deutsch directed it. That was that came when I first moved to L.A. I moved to L.A. literally right before that, and just got a call on the phone that they wanted me to come in and actually read for the lead, because somebody else was supposed to direct it. Penelope Spheris was supposed to direct it and had a falling out with John, and they were looking for a new lead, and I read for the lead, and then they ended up making an offer to Eric Stoltz, and they called me and said, well, how are you on Bad Guys? You want to come in and read for the bad guy? And I go, no, really. I want to play the lead. And then 2 days later they called and said, well, we're offering you the bad guy, whether you can play him or not. So I said, okay. They gave me the lead, and they gave me the bad guy, Hardy Jens, and that was my first bad guy, and I've probably played about 50 of them since.
So, in that early period, what stands out as the films that you can think about now and be proud of? In those like 80s movies, which ones do you look back of and think, yeah, I actually did a good job there?
I actually really, I think I really liked That Was Then, This Is Now, because it was it was a tough guy. He was a tough guy, but he was a vulnerable guy. It really had a lot of color to it. It was very human. Hardy Jens was, the typical your high school asshole kind of, preppy guy, which I was the opposite guy. I was the guy from the shithole side of town, so that was kind of interesting that I was playing that guy. But it was kind of one-dimensional, and the Fire with Fire was what it was. But I like That Was Then, This Is Now, a lot. I thought it was a good little film for when it was made, and I thought it was a nice role. Yeah,
good. So if we jump forward a little bit, how did you get cast in Nightbreed? Who linked you up with Clive? How did you hear about the movie? Was it an audition that you went to and you wanted the role? Did your agent suggest you go for it, etc.? How did you come to be in that film?
My agents actually said this is a horror film, but this is an upcoming. This guy is the next Stephen King. And this role is really incredible, and you really need to go read for it. And I had made a mistake a couple of years before that when what was his name? Joel
Schumacher.
Joel Schumacher, wanted me to read for Lost Boys for the Jason Patric role, and I came in. I said I'm not reading for it, and he said, well, let me sit down and talk to you. And I came in, and sat down, and we talked, and I said, you know what? You seem like a really nice guy, and it's probably going to be really interesting, but I'm just not interested in doing a vampire movie. So my perspective changed a little bit after that. So, I was very willing to go in and meet, and it was a really great audition scene. So I went in and I read for Clive once. I did this really intense scene and got offered the role right away.
And did you form a relationship with Clive in rehearsals or anything like that? Did you rehearse together with Clive for that film, or did you just start shooting?
No, we did. We rehearsed, but we talked about the character. We rehearsed a little bit. We were there for about a week before we started filming. But really, most of our work was done on set. Right, okay. It was pretty much, our hardcore rehearsals were, right before the takes.
And was that your first time coming to England? Was that a completely new experience for you as, an American kid coming over and making a movie in the UK?
It was my first film in the UK. I had gone there actually with my girlfriend she was a model, and Andy McDowell at the time, that was years ago. She was on a modeling shoot, and I went over there and I loved it. So when I got this film and knew it was going to be a long shoot, it was like about a 5-month shoot. I was over there it seemed like forever, from January through almost through the end of May. It was awesome. I loved the city. I loved the being at Pinewood, which you knew all the greatest old movies forever have been shot there. So you were being a part of history. So it was a really, really awesome experience for me. And I got to stay down on Kings Road where all the punks were with their crazy hairdos, and really enjoyed it.
Good, good. So, did you form a bond with England at that time, or did you just enjoy the history and the fact that you were making a movie in Pinewood, in the James Bond stage with an incredibly huge set, and what was it magical about it?
As a kid, my favorite movies as a kid when I was really young were like anything with musketeers or pirates. I loved anything that was British accent. I always felt like it was like I had a past life there or something. And I was born on the same day as Shakespeare. I always fancied myself, Shakespeare in a past life, although my poetry doesn't come up to that level. And so I always had I was a bit of an Anglophile, and then, strangely enough, this psychic actually told me, you're going to meet the most important woman in your life, and I met my daughter's mother there at Pinewood. And that was pretty cool. So I spent a lot of time in England for the next probably 5 or 6 years after that. But England's been very important for me, and I actually miss it a lot.
Yeah. So you made that movie, and you had a kind of experience. I mean, around that kind of period, you had a little bit of a reputation as being quite hard on directors. I mean, if you read up, and why do you think you were hard on directors? As a young upcoming actor, why did you make it tough for directors?
Well, I didn't actually attempt to make it tough, and actually, I never saw myself as being as tough as now I understand I was. I was just trying to maintain what I saw as the integrity of my characters. I've had any difficulty on set because after doing it for the first 15 years, you kind of went, wow, okay, this is a director's medium. It's a director's medium, and the director is the one who really helps me primarily define the character. So before I felt like I was protecting something and they were trying to take something away, and I don't know exactly where all that initiated from, but as a young actor in those days, most of the teachers would pretty much say, nobody tells you what you create your own character. It's all about you. And I don't know what they do nowadays in acting classes, but I hope they don't do that, because I think that, one of the most important things and the best experiences I've had have really come from collaboration. So I think being collaborative and understanding your place in the scheme of things is really important.
I mean, you don't consider yourself to be a method actor, do you? You don't consider yourself to come through that Brando kind of school that all the 70s actors came through. Your approach to this is different than that, isn't it?
Yeah, my approach is really, it's kind of, my approach is through osmosis. I would mostly say it as if, you're the flower sucking water from the ground. I'm I'm the guy who reads the part, and I let it sort of come to me. I let it come to me, and I let the text dictate to me what feelings emerge, and what sort of character comes from reading the material. And I really let the material dictate that, and then on the set, the director is the main man to dictate that. And so, when I was younger, directors would ask. They asked me to do something, and I would go, oh, yeah, sure, and then I would, not really do it. I would do whatever I wanted and act like I was doing it, which was pretty unfair. Because now it's like, most directors are very, very happy to give you your take, When I was younger, I used to act, I would really say, out of a place of fear, and it was not fun. I didn't have fun on most sets. I might have had fun in the town I was shooting in, and with my castmates, but I didn't have fun because I was. It was always a bit of a war with the director. So I find it very interesting now to look back on it and see that guy.
Yeah. Did you crush any directors? Did you win the battle any time? Did you?
I did crush. I crushed a couple directors, and yeah, I did.
So you owe them an apology.
I've apologized to the people that I've crushed.
That's good. That's good. So
although Clive was scared of me, and I never knew that.
Yeah, when you met him for the first time in 20 years, he was more nervous than you.
Right. I didn't know that, Clive. I saw that as me being on my best behavior, but obviously my edge was still there, and I intimidated him.
So you made a film with Robert Redford, and Brad Pitt was in it, and Tom Skerritt, and it's actually, I reviewed it a couple of months ago, and it's a very beautiful film, very eloquently made by a classical director. There's nothing about it that's masturbatory. It's actually quite beautifully made, shot wonderfully, and you got an absolutely fantastic character in that movie. I mean, how did you get cast in that, and what was your relationship like with Redford, and how did you develop your role?
Well, for me, that was the longest process I've ever gone through getting a part, because every young actor in Hollywood wanted to do it. Excuse me. So the first time, he required that everybody read the book before they came in and met him. And the first meeting was, just he would sit there and talk to you about all the details of the book and make sure that you actually had read it and what you thought of the character. And being a writer, I've always enjoyed reading and writing poetry, prose, and so on. So Norman was a writer, and I guess that must have struck Redford, because he kept having me back in. But in the beginning, he screen tested me for the Brad Pitt character. So, which is the character I wanted to do. I thought that's what I was right for. I was an edgy wild prick. So I thought that was gonna, work for me. So it was kind of surprising to me. His first choice for the Brad Pitt role was River Phoenix. So River, I got a call after having screen tested with 2 other actors for the Paul part. I got a call that they want me to come in and read for the Norman part, and that me and River are going to be screen testing together. So that was very surprising and interesting to me, because I certainly saw that guy as completely different. So I created a whole different character. At the time, my hair was like down to here, so I stuffed it up under a little fedora and went in and played Norman. And I guess the rest is history on that account. I mean, I ended up 4 months and 3 screen tests later, and with different people, I got the role. So,
how was Redford as a director? As an actor director, how did he direct actors? Did he concentrate on the camera? Did he concentrate on the actors?
I think he concentrated on Brad Pitt. That was pretty much his focus. I think he saw Brad as a young himself, and Brad was very new at that time, hadn't had a lot of acting experience, so he spent most of his time with Brad. He would give direction that, he was more of a kind of director who he'd go, you say it like this, and this is what you're doing. He'd kind of try to act it out for you, which really didn't work for me, but he's a very hands-off guy. He's kind of in his own little world, and he does, I guess he sets the whole tone. He's great at putting together an incredible a team of people that make the movie and oversees the whole thing, and he's a good director. I mean, he makes good films.
And was the film nominated?
It was nominated for 2 things, one of which it won for. Cinematography it won, but it was never nominated. It was in the short list. It was the last 10 films, and it did not make it for best film or any acting awards or anything like that.
Okay, it was more technical then. Yeah.
Technical.
So it was very beautiful. Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about Fire in the Sky, because that's a great cult little movie now. I think it's actually more appreciated in 2013 than it was upon its release, which says a lot about it.
Yeah, that was a really fun role for me, and that was a fun experience, and I got to actually meet the guys. I don't know if you guys do you know about Fire in the Sky at all? It's actually a true story of these guys who got abducted by aliens. And the most interesting thing about it was a really fun role, by the way, and I loved getting to know James Garner, who's an awesome guy. And, all of us young guys in the cast had a good time together. But the most interesting thing about it was actually the guys who got abducted and taken up into the ship came to set and were agreed to take a polygraph. They took a polygraph back in the 1970s when the incident occurred, but they came up to our set and did a separate polygraph, and they all passed again. And having gotten to know the guy who went up into the ship, and the reason, all the other guys, when asked if we believed it, if we believed in aliens, all the other cast members said no.
Absolutely. We're going to eat our way across Atlantic.
I like that. Now, next project. What is the next project?
We're going to make a film. We're going to make a film together, and in a year's time, it'll be in cinemas. It'll be in cinemas all across America. It's going to be a really big deal, but it doesn't get announced for a little while, so we have to be shh, Mr. Shush. We can't tell you too much about it other than we're going to make a film together. In a year's time, it'll be in cinemas all around the world. We'll be at film festivals. We'll be promoting it. But as soon as we can say it, you'll be the first to know.
Well, tell me about this project that you have here that's screening. It's 12 o'clock midnight tonight, correct?
11:30 start, yeah. Craig made a movie with our dear friend Clive Barker in the late 1980s, early 1990, and it had a really rough ride when it was released. It really wasn't the film that Craig read the script for, etc. And I was blessed enough to reconstruct it. So I took all the original elements and I've recreated it so that people could watch it. And ironically, a year and a bit ago, we met in North Carolina, and our first screening was in North Carolina, which was the South too. So we've got some history with the South right there.
What was the name of that festival?
It was called Mad Monster
Mad
Party.
Monster Party. Is that,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Did a lot of people come to it?
Yeah, it was pretty packed.
It was very packed.
Every screening we had has been like sold out, and like then they make another screening. It's been pretty amazing.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So how did
People
you
are
get...
like that. There are that many fans of Nightbreed. You're talking about 20.
Wow.
It was released
Shot it
September
23 years ago. I was a
1990,
baby.
Right. So tell me about your... how did your relationship build with Mr. Barker? How did you guys...
You know, my relationship at the time, I was a very young actor, and I guess I was a bit of a difficult actor because when I hadn't seen Clive in a very long time, and when I saw him, he was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're much nicer." You know? But I had a great experience, myself on the film.
Absolutely.
Clive was awesome. The project was awesome. The sets. We were shot in Pinewood Studios. There were, I think, 3 sound stages,
Yeah,
huge sound
absolutely,
stages, and it was my first experience with any kind of special effects. So I was doing 6 hours of special effects a day, and you come out and you have. I mean, we had the biggest special effects crew I've ever seen, because we had so many different kinds of monsters, and
Wow.
and so it was a completely new experience. It was the biggest movie I'd done at that point, so it was pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, it seems as though you guys, I don't want to hold you too long, but I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys tonight. We'll catch some of that Q&A that you guys are doing.
Cool.
How about
Oh,
that?
yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Can you give us the name of the film again? And
Nightbreed, the Cabal Cut.
wow.
Were harmed in the making of this movie.
I was going to introduce them, but they kind of just came in and did their own little thing. But thank you for all coming tonight to our midnight screening of Nightbreed, the Cabal Cut, with the Cabal Cut producer, Russell Cherrington, and star Craig Sheffer. Now, I'm just happy that we were able to get these two guys out here for our first year here at the Gwinnett Center International Film Festival. This was a big thing for us because we weren't sure we were going to be able to do a big film like this. So we're so happy that they're out here and they're supporting us and supporting independent film and us, the fans, here right now.
You're awesome. Thanks for coming, man.
So I know you don't want to hear me talk. You actually want to hear these guys talk right before we get to the screening of the movie. So feel free to ask them any questions that you would like.
So thank you very much, Kevin, for inviting us. We really appreciate it. So thank you. That's right. So I'm not shy. He's not shy. For me, it's all about you. So I want you guys to ask questions because the whole idea about tonight, you haven't watched it yet, but you're going to ask the questions before, which is a bit weird. But the film the film's 2 hours, 24 minutes long. So by the time it gets started, it'll be about 2:30 by the time you get out of here. And hopefully my cushion on my bed will have me snoring on it. Because I'm still on English time, and that's 5 hours in front of here. So.
But give them an introduction as to how this all came about and why the Cabal Cut is the Cabal Cut and what you did and how happy Clive is.
Okay, good. I'll do that. Thanks, Craig. Right. So this whole started with a gentleman called Mark Miller. Mark Miller works for Clive Barker. He basically contacted Clive 5 years ago and said, could I search and attempt to get made a director's cut of Nightbreed? And Clive said, go for it. That's what I've always wanted to happen. So Mark then rang Morgan Creek up, and Morgan Creek laughed at him down the phone and said, you've got to be kidding. Nobody wants to watch Nightbreed. It's a piece of shit. Nobody watched it in 1990. So they assumed that nobody would want to watch the Cabal Cut of Nightbreed or a director's cut. So I look out in that room and there's nobody there tonight. I haven't talked to anybody in the last hour. Craig hasn't. So we've had screenings where in London we had 1,400 people came to watch the film. I've had screenings in Chicago where 700 people have come. We've sold out 2 screenings in a row in Los Angeles. It showed at all the major horror festivals around the world. And tonight it's here for you guys. And Morgan Creek were kind of wrong. So Mark continued diligently trying to do this, and they just wouldn't let him anywhere near it. And so he became friends with Clive, which is a really nice thing. And he was up, and Clive has a huge library, and Mark was in there one day just moving books. And he moved the book, and behind the book was a videotape. And on the videotape, it said Nightbreed. So Mark got this tape, and he kind of ran home with it and said, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch it. This could be something special. And he put it in his machine and pressed play, and it spat it out. And he put it back in and pressed play, and it spat it out because it was PAL European, and it wasn't NTSC. Now, like NTSC is never the same color. You guys have got to know that. It's not the best video format ever. So anyway, so he had to send it to England, and he sent it to Clive's webmasters, Phil and Sarah. And then they got somebody to put it on a DVD, and they sent it back. And then he finally got to watch it about a month later. And like, to his amazement, he was watching really rough 7-minute chunks of unseen footage, and which lasted for 3 hours. So there was a 30-second leader, 7 minutes of footage, a 10-second out reel, and then you got another 30-second lead of 7 minutes of footage. And it really was incredibly rough. And they took that to a horror festival called Horror Hound, and they screened it. And they screened the horrible, messy thing that was unwatchable. And like in here tonight, it was bigger than this, and it was sold out. It was full. And by the time the film was finished, there was 30 people in the cinema. And this is where I enter the equation. So I know about that. I've worked with Clive for a decade. I've been his friend since 1987, and I visit all the time, and I have a lot to do with his artwork. So I've been curating it. I've been putting exhibitions together. I work on scripts. I do all kinds of things with Clive. He's one of my closest friends, my top 5 friends in the world. And I said to Mark, being the kind of a guy that I am, I said, I'd like to have a copy of that Nightbreed so I can take it home and watch it. All along I knew I wasn't going to take it home and watch it. I kind of worked out that I had the first 2 drafts of the script, I had a digital copy of what you guys had seen before, Nightbreed, and now in my possession I had the work print. And I have an editor, and I've got an editing system, and you know what? I wanted to watch Nightbreed like nobody else had ever seen it. So I made it for me. Not for you, forget about you, I made it for me. I seriously made it so I could watch it. I had goosebumps the day we burnt it onto DVD and I took it and watched it on my huge plasma TV, and I was like, oh my God, I'm the only person in the world that's ever seen this. So what I did, and then I packaged it and I took it over and gave a copy to Clive, a copy to Mark, and a copy to Clive's other assistant, a guy called Robbie, and I said, watch this. Now, Mark took it home and he'd watched it as quick as he could, and he sent me all these amazing emails saying, this is amazing, fantastic, thank you, wonderful. And then Clive watched it, and then I got an email saying, Clive Barker has some notes for you. And I went, shit, just like in The Wire, shit. I'm going, oh no. So I opened the email, and he wants me to make 3 changes in a 2-hour, and at that point it was 2 hours, 40 minutes long. And he wanted 3 minuscule changes. He wanted me to move a scene near the beginning where the hallucination happens. He wanted me to put an echo of Boone's voice on a scene in the mortuary. And he wanted me to do something near the end of the film that I won't say because of spoilers. And that's all he asked me to do. And that was great. And he rang me up in tears one night saying that I'd made the film he always wanted and it was beautiful, etc. And he watched it 3 times in one night. So it was absolutely fabulous. And Clive watched it. And then as soon as we'd done this, we were contacted by a place called Mad Monster Party in Charlotte. They contacted us and they said, we want to show that horrible work print that was showed in Indianapolis. And Mark said to them, no, we've got something better. And that's really where it started. So we nervously, basically, did some changes. Mark noticed that one person died twice in the movie, which was hilarious. We noticed that pretty early on. You know, classic, you know, like I'm trying to put everything in and I put the guy in dead twice. So, you know, I was that enthusiastic. So, and then we took it to Mad Monster Party. It sold out a room. Craig came, Anne came. We watched the movie together with an audience for the first time, kind of nervously. And it was an amazing experience. By the end of that night, Anne had sang a song to Clive down a phone. She'd shouted out we should occupy Midian because Occupy Wall Street was happening. So I went off the stage and bought the URL. So I went and bought it before somebody else did in the audience and tried to charge me double. So I beat them to it. So I did that. And then by the time I'd got back to England, 3,000 people had joined Occupy Midian and wanted to watch it. Within a month, there was 7,000 people. And then it went up to 13,000, and between the signatures and the website, we're at about 20,000 people now. And I got something like a screening request every day for 6 months. So people wanted to see it. And then we started to work out where we were going to screen it, and we screened it. And basically the film was born. And then a lot of you probably know that at Comic-Con it was announced that it's going to be released by a company called Shout Factory. Yeah. Now, this happened because of fans. It did not happen because of a studio. It did not happen because we had lots of money. It happened because of the audiences. So everybody that comes to watch this film for me is special. Yeah, because you've decided to watch the movie. Now, I need to explain a couple of little things, and then Craig will tell you what he thinks. But right, about what you're about to watch comes from 3 different sources. It comes from 2 work prints and the DVD. It's what you're about to watch is not Nightbreed. Right? It is not Nightbreed. Forget you ever watched Nightbreed. Right? There's about 30% of this film that's Nightbreed. Everything else is Clive's novel, Cabal. Right? And it follows Cabal as closely as it is possible. It forgets that Nightbreed was ever made. So please don't contact me on Facebook and say, why does Decker die? Or why a character lives and why one dies that are different than Nightbreed. The reason is because it's Cabal. Right? And that's the most important thing. Clive set out to make Cabal. Morgan Creek and 20th Century Fox stopped him from making Cabal. Right? Or stopped him from releasing Cabal. But like I said, tonight you are going to watch on the big screen Cabal. It's amazing for me to travel the world. In a week's time, I'm going to go to Australia and show this film. I've showed it all over Europe, all over America, and I still get requests every week, and it's fantastic to be here with you tonight. Enjoy it. Tell us what you think on Occupy Midian, and, fall in love with it, please. Okay, bye, guys.
Awesome meeting you guys. It was really fun out in the lobby, man.